and welcome to this week's edition of the Las Vegas Advisor Weekly Update. Today is a very special day because we have Hollywood Dave with us, and we also have George with us. George A. Anthony's going to give him a better intro, but we're going to be talking WSOP and all things World Series of Poker coming up soon. I'll kick it over to Anthony.
All right, we've got Dave Stann, George Antonakos. Both are playing the World Series of Poker, and I'll tell you a little bit about each one real quick. All right, we'll start with Dave, formerly known as Hollywood Dave Stann. Here's his book, Hollywood.
Yeah, I've got a book.
Yeah, man. Hollywood Blackjack.
There you go. Only at Huntington Press.
Yep. And here's how I met Dave. All right, I met Dave. I'm not sure the year, 2007.
January 2004.
You remember all that? All right, great. So we're playing at the World Series of Blackjack Game Show Network, was it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And there's a bunch of people there. I'd never met Dave before. And there's this guy, Hollywood Dave, and I'm watching him play, and he's just mouthing off and being a jackass like I'd never seen before. I'm like, who is this idiot, right? And I'm like, I hate this guy. I mean, I'm like, I hate this guy. And then I watched him play. And then I watched him play another round. And I watched him play another round. And I go, what's going on here? I mean, the guy could really play. That was way back then. Turns out the whole Hollywood Dave persona was like the sort of thing he did. And he was really on top of it, blackjack tournament expert. For my money, one of the best in the world, I think. And
thank you.
Over these years, we've stayed in touch, and he now plays a lot of poker, dabbles or more than dabbles in cryptocurrency and various things.
I can't confirm or deny.
Yeah. Then there's George Antonakos, who's I kind of just met him.
Yeah, that's, I was gonna say that's tough to follow. That's a pretty great intro from Hollywood Dave. There.
I met George at playing the blackjack tournaments, the mini tournaments at Downtown Grand, and he came up to talk to me about why nobody buys a Las Vegas Advisor or something like that, and I was like, I hate this guy too.
Why don't we have a million sold?
Yeah. You just hate everybody that you meet.
I was like, I hated him too. Yeah. But anyway, again, I watched him play. He's not a blackjack tournament pro per se, but he is a poker tournament player, and he played a good blackjack tournament game. And turns out he was a rugby player at Navy, and I played rugby in Vegas for about a decade. So,
oh wow!
So we hit it off, and both of these guys said they'd come in, and we talk about the World Series of Poker, which is going to start in about 5 days, right? Next Tuesday.
Okay,
I believe. Okay, so let's get into it. See, it starts like I just said, the 28th. With the dealer, what is it, the Dealers Championship that they've always
Dealer's Choice, yeah.
No, it's not Dealer's Choice.
No, you're right.
It's
the players, the employee
event. Yeah, and that's how they've always kicked it off.
And a Tournament of Champions, I think, for anyone who's won a ring or anything online, they combine all those people.
5,000 buy-in.
A ring too? Only for a main event ring, though, right? Not just a side event ring.
I think it's all of them, to be honest. Like you could be in Detroit and beat 300 people.
$300
ring.
You circuit might be eligible.
Ring.
All right.
Well, there's going to be 99 events, and that's a lot. So I guess people are winning bracelets, but it's hard because the fields are so huge. So my first question, we'll start with Dave. How big this year do you think? Last year, they broke records all over the place.
I think we're breaking records again this year. That's why I took like 10 years off of poker, and I came back 2 years ago because I thought it would be the biggest, post-pandemic. It wasn't. Last year was the biggest. Last year was also my best year in terms of all the cashes I had, so hopefully I can do it again. I was telling you before we started filming here that the biggest main event field, 2006 Jamie Gold, 112 million, field of like 8,800 give or take, and that was not beaten again because of the UIGA and all the anti-gambling stuff here in the U.S. Until last year they blew it out of the water with over 10,000 entries, and surprisingly the winner only won 12.1 million. Mm-hmm. So I know they're just probably paying a little bit more of the field, but also the rake seems to have just grown exponentially. We're going to talk about
rake. Okay, George, what do you think in terms of size? I thought poker was done. I really did. A couple of years ago, especially coming out of the pandemic, I said, put a fork in it, man. Put a fork in it. I think it's done. And then they did what they did last year. Of course, it was engineered. They did everything on earth they could do to get over 10,000 people to play. But what do you think?
No, it's better than it's ever been, actually. It killed, especially in LA. LA poker got creamed during the pandemic. They're back now, though. They just had a huge event at Commerce.
Are they bigger than ever in LA too?
I don't want to say ever, but they're back to like pre-pandemic levels almost, I think, out there after going like into the toilet. They lost the WPT stop at the Commerce.
Yeah.
They're doing a circuit event now, I think, out there, but everything's thriving. The Hard Rock in Florida, the wind tournaments over Christmas here have been just insane. I mean, the 10K last year got 3,800 people, like the second biggest event of all time behind the main event here.
They had the big guarantee too.
Yeah,
right?
they missed it,
So-
I think, in that one. They needed 4,100 maybe.
Yeah, some kind of a slight overlay on that one, I
Yeah.
think. Okay, so both of you, one at a time. I don't care who goes first. I mean, what do you play? I mean, what's your level of participation? What do you consider your expertise? I mean, like, how are you going to play the tournament? Are you going to play the main event? You know, what's your play?
I'll go first. I think Dave plays a lot of mix, but which is something I'm looking to get into because they seem infinitely more fun than the Hold'em tournaments. But I usually try, if I'm in town, to play all the big, really good ones, the Millionaire Maker, the Monster Stack for 1,000 or 1,500, and the first place is like $1 million plus in all these. So they got, I think, 3 of those to 4 of those, maybe some more close, where they pay like an 888 or a 777. That's almost 800K or whatever. That's another one that's almost for $700, $800. So the numbers last year were just staggering. You could buy in for $800 and walk with 460 for first place, or 400 and something for first, for just a random $800 tournament. The ROIs are crazy. The fields are huge. The lines are big.
Will you play the main?
I'm not sure.
Will you play satellites to get in?
Yeah, probably.
A little bit. Will you play cash games live?
After I bust the tournament, the last thing I want to do is go play cash.
I don't think so.
At least hold them. I might go play some mixed games.
That's like
cash.
like in the golf tournaments. You know, I never get it. Like they've just played all these 18, and now they go right to start hitting balls again.
Yeah, I
It's
want to go wreck my car into the stanchion out in the... Can't even get out of the Paris garage. It's like last year with F1 was nuts, man. You like can't even leave. You bust, you can't even leave. You're stuck there.
Oh boy. Yeah, it
Screaming.
gets crazy. Right there at the horseshoe is where it's all going to go
Yeah,
down.
and then F1 just destroyed it. People wouldn't even go. The light was just blocked out in front of the Paris. I had to go the back way. So yeah, it's
Luckily,
yikes.
the construction seems to be everywhere else in Vegas this year instead of right there by the horseshoe like it was last year. For
I
F1.
hope it doesn't start till after. Like maybe
Yeah.
they started up in July or something, or August. That'd be perfect.
That was all the Formula One stuff.
Right, it was the bridge, and now they don't have that bridge there.
The FU Formula F1.
Yeah.
It's horrible. How about you, Dave? What are you going to play?
Yeah, mixed game kind of specialist, I guess, and that's why I love the World Series, because you're going to get the largest tournament prize pools for, all the horse, all the 8-game, all the 9-game stuff. I will play some of the cash they have. Again, it's, you don't usually get the higher stakes mixed cash games. Here in Vegas you do, but they love to throw in like weird variants of Badasi things. I know how to play, but I just know I'm not going to win money against, the dedicated grinders of those games. So I tend to stay away from those cash games. But during the World Series, you get just like, stud 808 cash games, for, 100, 200 or whatever. And it's like, oh, you're not going to get that really
You
anywhere
play the
else.
5100 in the King's Lounge, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of like how many, I'll play, I think you said 99. Is it really that many this year?
99 bracelet
Wow,
events, yeah.
that's crazy. So I usually play like 20 or 30 of them. Basically any mixed game, and then I throw in all of the like super lottery documents, the $400 Colossus and the $1,000, whatever, with the multi-million-dollar prize pools, because it's just too good to pass up. I feel like I started with Hold'em, but then I specialized in mixed games. And for me, I'm just bored with Hold'em, but I can't get away from those prize pools. But you couldn't pay me enough to play like a no limit Hold'em, cash game or just like a 5K or something, unless it's like the main event of an EPT or something like
What
that.
about the main event?
What I usually do when I play the World Series is I just see how I'm doing. And if I'm deep in the hole by the main event, I say, thanks anyway. I'm not taking one shot for 10K, but if I'm doing well, then yeah, I'll fire.
Cash games?
Yeah, play that too.
A little
Yeah.
bit. So,
Yeah.
all right. So you guys doing this for profit? I mean, obviously you're playing it because you think you can win it, right? I mean, remember when it started to get big, everybody was doing it for sponsorship and back end and everything else. If you won one of these things, the back end was like bigger than anything. I don't think it's like that anymore because they're not going to get the sponsorship they got.
When I used to be sponsored way back in the day, and that was great. It was like the pay from that plus the 100% rake back. You know, you're already up 20, 30 grand in a month and you didn't even play anything yet. So you can afford to fire off on everything and all the rebuys and everything. I quit for like 10 years, but I came back last year and I just felt like it's like riding a bike. In a weird way, the time away from the game, I think, has kind of made me more aware of certain things that I think when you're getting into a grind for years and you get, you know, maybe caught up in some bad beats or whatever, you might not be as objective maybe about your game. And being away, I think, has helped that for me.
What are you looking forward to the most at this year's WSOP?
Honestly, my two favorite events are the 1500 Omaha 8 or better and the 1500 horse. Mm-hmm. But I consistently do really well in the 8 game. I final tabled last year, and I maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't know the first thing about PLO. So I don't know how the hell I keep doing well in 8 game, because that's one of the games where I'm like, yeah, I'll just fold these hands for the I have a really big monster. I know how to play that.
Pot limit on.
Yeah, exactly.
For those who don't know.
I don't know anything
what
about
do you think? Moneymaker or no? Chris?
I mean,
that's
that's
there
the,
to make money, obviously.
Of course, the beauty of poker is any idiot can win.
There you go.
And, you know, it's been a few years since I won anything, but you look back and say, man, how did I ever win one? But yeah, that's why people are leaving chess and all sorts of other things, because it's incomplete information. And, you know, some of these are lottery ticket fields, 7,000 people, 20,000 people in some of the real tiny ones. But, I mean, the return is insane. And, you know, as long as you have a basic understanding and you put in some time playing, studying, thinking about the game, you know, anybody with a decent level of understanding can go deep in these things, and some people that even don't have that make a final table. So,
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. That's all right.
I was gonna say, what are you looking forward to the most for this year's WSOP?
I'd say probably the Monster Stack, the Millionaire Maker. These are really great events where it's $1,500 to get in, and first place $1 million. So I like to aim.
It's
real
not
big.
bad.
Well, we talked about this last week when we were talking about football contests, and where you talk about you play against these quants and you play against these guys who are modeling the survivor, you know, all the way forward. And you're like, why should I even play against them? They're too good. The reason you can play against them is because it's a finite amount of time, and you can get lucky in a finite amount of time. And that's the same thing with like any tournament, that you can get in there. If you're reasonable, you could pull it off. You can make some money, because I mean, they pay deep, right?
I see you've got the Kill Phil up here, and for those really big, you know, bracelet winner, Blair Rodman, of course, and for those giant fields of 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 people with, you know, everyone's donking off left and right, that's the best strategy. You just play super ABC tight for, you know, half of it. Mm-hmm. You let 80% of the field go away and you just have people dump chips to you. All right, then you should switch it up probably and start playing, you know, more advanced poker. But that's great for those giant fields.
Yeah, we'll talk about our poker books in a little bit. You're right. That's the one. I mean, for anybody who wants to get started, that's the one. All right, so let's talk, again, talking strategy. I'm a big, when it comes to tournaments, I'm a big equity guy. I look at equity. I look at how much is being taken out of the pool. So let me show you what I got for you all. Here's the numbers.
The rakes.
Yeah, this is the rakes. This is what they're taking out.
In the poker game of life,
Women are the oh wait, that's rounders.
sorry,
What's
ladies,
saying? There's no saying.
they are the effing rake.
Do we have homework? What is this?
All
I have
right,
to go
take
to
a
the
look at that.
blackboard here?
All right, this is what they're taking out. All right, so you look, you know, you can look down the thing, the main event at 10,000. I think we're going to put this up on the screen. We'll try to put this up. The 10,000 event, they're taking out 7%. All right, which isn't like ridiculous, crazy. Look what they're doing on the low end. On the 300, 400, 500 buy-ins, they're taking out 16 to 18%.
Wow.
I love to play the game where you look at the first place prize money and then you look at how much the casino took out. And I think everything below like 3K, the casino makes more than first place. So that should tell you something.
Wow,
right there.
amazing.
Sure does.
Well, you know what they made last year? Last year they had a blended takeout. See, we do stuff like this. You know, we don't go in there, I don't go in there and play it, but we do stuff like this. You know, I hire people to give me these numbers so I can bang on them, you know?
And this tells you what to do, basically. You don't want to be playing events that are less than, look at the 12%'s probably like the if you're really trying to grind, you're really trying to watch your equity is. You probably don't want to play these 600s and below, but the flip side is it's $300 and you can win 300 grand.
Yeah,
So like,
right.
I mean, I think our equity is, reasonably skilled players is significantly higher too. So there's
That's
probably
the argument.
some kind of.
That's the argument. That's what everybody says. I mean,
Yeah.
when I used to look at blackjack tournaments, if it was under 90%, I pretty much wasn't interested. They're like, "What do you think your edge is?" I go, "My edge maybe is 14%."
Why does it say me 7%? That's how much equity you have.
Main event.
Okay.
Main event.
Handwritten.
so for reference here, they're taking 700 on the main here. The win takes 400 on their 10K. So that just tells you kind of.
Trying to
That's
compete.
a lot on a 10K, man. 7%.
It is.
That's
And
a lot of money.
Yet everybody tells me the main event is so much dead money that it's
It
just
is.
that it's worth playing no matter
Best
what. If you're a
tournament in
player.
the world.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
That's what everyone says. It's just dead money all over the place, and that probably makes sense.
You got athletes and businessmen that don't, they play
Yeah.
once a
Yeah.
year. They have no idea what they're doing. Just throwing 10K to say they played, and there's a lot of people like that.
Well, look at this as an enterprise. Last year, there was a blended takeout of 8.23%. That's how much that they skimmed off the top. And Caesars made $35.8 million
Wow.
on their takeout during the tournament.
That's a lot of buy-ins.
And that's before, that's before their sponsorships, their advertising, everything else. They 35.8 million.
Oh, and they guard
only
those,
on the skim.
those intellectual property rights. I used to run a social poker app, and we would try to give seats away to the main event, to the World Series of Poker, and you had to pay them for the right to even say we're going to give money away. And so you notice sometimes you'd be playing like a free poker site or something, and it says something like, get free seats to the big dance in Las Vegas. They'll call it like other weird names, kind of like the Super Bowl does the same thing,
the big-
right?
yeah,
the big
Yep,
game.
the big game. They can't call it the main event, even if they don't even use World Series of Poker. Interesting.
It's an amazing model that they can make that much money. And it's so amazing that people don't care. I mean, they'll flock to these $300, $400, $500 buy-ins. They'll have thousands upon thousands, and they don't care.
And so for reference, like LA's worse than this. So like the standard on a 300, 500 in LA is 18 to 20. Sometimes they're taking 20%. And then where they really kill people is on the single table satellites. They're raking like 30%, or they used to. I don't know. They've adjusted the
Is
table.
this Commerce or Hollywood Park you're talking about, or?
All of them.
Okay.
The bike was, I think, the bike and Hustler were the biggest offenders, but Commerce Rake was a little bit better. Commerce ran the best tournaments back when I lived there, but it was Commerce, then bike. They were really good, and then Hustler's had a big resurgence now with their HCL with the cash streaming.
So I travel. I spent a lot of time in Europe recently and playing all over Europe, the EPT events. And one of the events I played was in Slovakia, and I've never seen this before, but there was a guarantee. I don't know what it was, 20,000 guarantee on some mixed game tournament. And there was an overlay. They didn't make the guarantee. Have you ever seen this? They deduct the rake from that. So in this case, it was like 20,000, but it was like 20% rake or something. So they only offered like 16,000 as the guarantee, even though they guaranteed 20,000. I've never seen
Nice.
that. So just guarantee 16,000. Why are you guaranteeing 20 if there's no way? Because there's no situation where you ever get between 16 and 20,000 unless you actually have the players for that.
That's hilarious. The
Yeah.
casino's perspective is you must have misunderstood the deal.
Right, and I've
It's-
I've played tournaments all over the world. It's the only place that they've ever deducted their own rake from the guarantee after the fact.
That's wild.
Well, one nice thing is this year they only raised one. The only one they raised is the $1,000. No, that's like most of them, I think, 1,000 and 1,500s. But they raised that from 11% to 12%. Everything else is same as it was last year. So anyway, there's my rake.
Yeah, those aren't too bad. I mean, you'd like to see 10% rake, but I mean, that's a massive undertaking, and they do a lot of things well. I don't want to make it sound like we're bashing them. They do a lot of stuff well, but they do some kind of boneheaded things. But it seems like recently they're listening to players, they're listening to feedback. They're probably going to have some changes, positive changes. At least the lines to register, they've seemed to have fixed that now a lot with people just register online.
If they, we were talking earlier about the lines for the re-registration on these, like, smaller buying events. Last year, I was waiting in 3-4 hour lines. So you want to bust out of one of these 400s and you want to buy back in. It's like, good luck.
Yeah, that's gonna still be the same.
But a lot of places have figured out, especially in Europe, but even here in the U.S., where you just, now serving number 473 and your alternate, 17,000, you just go to lunch for 2 hours and come back.
That makes sense. Okay, what about the alternative tournaments? All right, so they're going to have one that I know of so far. The Venetian's having one from May 20th to July 31st. Wynn is having one. They have their big tournaments to coordinate because all these people are in town.
Orleans, Golden Nugget,
Orleans. Those are the smaller ones.
I'll just say
Aria.
right now, your best poker experience probably I want to say in the United States is probably the Wynn. They do everything right. Shout out to my man Ray.
Great job there.
They just do everything right. They're an industry leader in a lot of, structure changes, progressive satellite tournaments, just everything they do right, from the cash room to the tournaments. That's
professional, very professional.
They're fantastic. If there's ever a problem, they fix it properly. But yeah, that's the best poker experience I've probably ever had.
So do you do that? Do you go play there? Like, do you split it up and go, I'm going to go play XYZ tournament over at the Wynn and then come back for the one I like at the World Series?
A lot of people do that. And I'm more of just if I don't feel like playing, I'll never play. But people that are real strict and playing a crazy schedule will be like, all right, I'm going to bust if you bust at, like the Paris, they'll drive down and they'll late reg a 1600 at the Wynn that has a 3 million guarantee. Where there's
and for the mixed games too. Last week they had at Caesars, they had like a mixed game series. It was horse 8 game, Omaha stud, and then it's starting this week at Wynn. There's the 1100 horse and 8 game in Omaha. Those are great to kind of warm up on. Unfortunately, for mixed games, the prize pools, you pay into an 1100, you'll be lucky to get a 100K prize pool. And you wait a week till the 08 1500, and there's.
Yeah, I'd say for the mix, the World Series is definitely where it's at. But they're running great hold'em on the off strip properties. Yeah. But I just prefer the Wynn to everyone really.
Well, for the people who are watching who don't play, because I would never play. It was always fun for me to go watch. I mean, it's pretty good to get on the rail or into the stands if it's one of the big ones when they get down to like the final table. And I mean, I played once in the main event, and that didn't turn out too well.
That's right.
But I would go down there a lot to watch, like Blair, author here of Kill Phil, when he won his bracelet for $700,000. I had 10%.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's why you came to watch.
Of course.
The guy's just sharp. This guy's just sharp. He just knows.
I invited you to come see my 8 game final table last year, but you didn't have a percent of me. That's why you didn't come.
I kept checking to make sure, hoping that you had busted out. I was like,
Do you let people
As
invest?
it worked out, by the time you got there, I wouldn't have been there anymore. So.
Do you let people invest in you, Dave? Like, do you let people take a piece?
I used to a long time ago. I just like making all the money myself now.
Okay. So, guys, how can people get tickets if they want to go watch people play the?
There's no tickets. It's free.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you can go and you get in grandstands or sit on the rail or whatever.
Yeah, all the final tables are at the Horseshoe, so you can just show up if you're on Twitter or you see like someone that you like to watch or someone you follow's made a final table. They're all in the afternoon or evening. You just go to the Horseshoe, you walk into the back of there and where the poker's being played, and it's usually nobody there. You can just grab a seat and watch or stand around on the rail.
Which is really weird, too, because sometimes you have some really big names and some, like a 100K buy-in tournament or something, and there's like, sure, they're friends and family, but like nobody else there. That's really interesting. But yeah, except for the main event, you can pretty much just see whatever you want, whenever you want.
It's fun. I mean, it's fun to watch, especially if you know somebody or you got a piece of somebody or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you're even an amateur poker player, there's just something about walking around the various tournament areas over in the Horseshoe and Paris that it's like a mecca for poker players. I like to go before it all starts, buy in for the first tournament the day before, let's say, and you just walk around and you see like hundreds and hundreds of tables completely empty.
Yeah.
And then the next day you go and you just hear the deafening roar of chip shuffling,
Yeah,
it's
clip,
just
clip, 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 clip,
yeah,
clip,
and it's
clip,
just this,
right?
this
Yeah.
the ocean of sound of that.
That's true.
It's very interesting.
That's one of the coolest things, the spectacle, to go in there and hear them shuffling the chips.
Yeah.
It's just clip, 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 clip. It's like walking into a forest with grasshoppers everywhere, that kind of thing. And it's cool.
Yeah, it's something to see. If you never been and you want to check it out, go to the Paris during any one of these huge events. That's probably just to see the spectacle, I would say, because they have it split now. But the Paris is probably be a better to get that, the whole vibe, the shuffling of the chips, the room's a little bit bigger. But yeah, it's
You're a good chip
it's a
shuffler?
spectacle.
Can you do it?
Yeah.
You good at it?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, you have to be able to be a poker player. It's just
That's
fire.
maybe why I didn't do it. Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. Well, I haven't been to this one the first 2 years.
Yeah.
I haven't been on the Strip. I used to go to the Rio, which is right next door. One of the coolest things, and I used to go to Binion's Horseshoe. So we got to talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, those
One
were
of the
good old
coolest
days.
things at the Rio is I saw Joe Hashem win. When Hashem won, he had all his mafia from.
It was the first year at the Rio, right?
Yeah, and he had they weren't mafia. They're all his friends from Australia. Aussie, 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 all of that through the whole thing. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Rowdy, drunken crowd.
Oh
right
my
there,
God,
man.
it was
This
great.
is a good crowd.
Yeah, Blair Rodman and I were there, and that one went on and on. It was like something like 3 or 4 in the morning, and they were still playing and watching Hashem. Who's been? I mean, you've been to the.
I was at the last year of the Horseshoe. I think that was my first year playing poker. And I still remember it was just so obscenely crowded. Like, sure, it gets crowded at the Rio, it gets crowded everywhere. But, like, you couldn't, like, you were crushed anywhere you're going. I remember standing in a line, and I didn't know if the line was to register for a satellite or to buy in for a tournament or go to the bathroom. Like, you didn't even know. No one in front of you knew. You were just like, we're going this way, right? Yeah, it was insane.
Well, the thing they had at the Horseshoe, you were there, right?
I wasn't too young. I was just off in another
You
world,
weren't
doing
doing-
my
you
own
weren't
thing,
I used to go every year. I used to go to see the spectacle. And I mean, some of the coolest things I saw, there was a guy named Bill Smith. You ever hear of Bill Smith? He was a champ. Played the entire tournament with Budweiser's coming constantly.
Yeah.
Right? Now, back then, obviously, they only had 200-300 people entering, right? Back then, not like before. But, man, it just next one, next Bud. Another one that comes to mind was when Scotty Wynn won. When he says to the guy, he looks him right in the eye, he goes, "You call, it's all over, baby."
You call, it's all over, baby.
That's what he said. You call, it's all over, baby.
Yeah.
Legendary line.
And
from,
he called, and it was over. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I saw a guy, this
I've
is
seen that. Yeah.
last year. I mean, so it starts at 10, and it's not the first break yet. It's like level 2, and he has 8, 10 beer cups. I'm like, he was at like a table in front of me, and I didn't notice, and then I just looked over, and you're stacked like this. Guys had 8 or 10 beers in an hour and a half. Like,
I mean, that's how some people play. Some
can't
people
beat a drunk.
That's another kind of ritual. You talk about the chips being shuffled and all that, but when you get to that last level of the night, and everyone knows most of them are going to make the next day, that's when everyone's calling for cocktails and drinks and, buying each other, and you can tell the mood changes, everyone gets happy. And then some people don't make it and they're not so happy.
Yeah, sure, I bet.
Well, they used to have a buffet at the Horseshoe for the players that Jack Binion and Benny Binion would put out. And I got to do it because I knew people and I was considered maybe part of the press because I'd already started the advisor.
You're a big deal. He's a
Yeah.
big deal. This guy's a
Not-
big deal. I don't know if you guys know.
Not so much back then, for sure. But I mean, they had everything. They had elk, they had snake, they had, they put all this stuff out. They had, bison. It was the most incredible thing. It was completely free. They did it every year.
And now we just get to pay $20 for a hot dog.
$9 bananas.
Hey, that's a
Damn.
deal.
Well, why is
blew it.
that? Because who took over?
Caesar.
Caesar's
Speaking
Entertainment.
of, the old Binions, I remember my very first comp as a blackjack player was losing at the time my entire bankroll at Binions playing, $5 blackjack, which at that time was, I don't know, like $3,000. That was it. It was felted. And the guy pit boss came over and he just took pity on me and he said, "Hey, would you like to have a steak dinner?" I said, "Sure, thanks." So I got this full comp, booze, food up in the top steakhouse up there.
Oh, man.
I went up there, I ordered the nice steak, wine. I could not taste a thing because I just like, that was it. The very young card counter got felted and I ate it, but that was my first comp. I remember.
Weren't those the great days?
Oh,
They
yeah.
used to do stuff like that. I mean,
You could never get a full steak and alcohol comp dumping $3,000 at a table. Oh my God.
One other one too. I remember, and I'm pretty sure it was the main event. It might have been one of the preliminaries, but I'm pretty sure it was the main event. They said shuffle up and deal. And 30 seconds later, a guy stands up and he's walking out. It was Stu Unger. It was all in firsthand. He wanted nothing to do with it. He's like, either I'm gonna get a bunch of chips and run over you people, or I'm out of here. And I remember, Stanford Wong used to always say when I played on his tournament team, he goes, first is best, last is second best, because you're going for it.
That's like a
what it is.
reverse kill Phil move.
Yeah,
Should be a book for like, are you a super pro and you just don't have time to deal with the nonsense?
Hand one, that's some serious negative EV right there. You're trying to win a 10-day tournament on the first hand.
He
You
was
don't
up
think
in-
it's possible?
Well, he was always great with chips. I mean, from everything that I've known about him and read about him, you give him chips and you're in big
I
trouble.
think he was like the world's best gin player, right? Ever. Like people have considered him the best gin player that's ever lived.
And you know what? I told a wrong story on this show. There was a guy named Jeff Mervis, a buddy of mine. He was basically a lowball player. That was his specialty. And he was a gambler of all sorts. And I told this story where he taught Stewie, right? He taught Stewie to play gin. And then Stewie said, and he was beating him. And then Stewie said, no, he came in, he said, I won't play you anymore. You've gotten too good after 3 weeks. And some people busted me on that, right? They busted me on that and said, no, he was a great gin player before he came to Vegas. And I was just told the other day, it was not gin, it was backgammon.
Oh, I thought that was Stu Unger was a backgammon player, not a gin
No,
player.
he was a gin player.
Okay, yeah.
But what he did was he hadn't played backgammon. And this guy, Jeff Mervis, taught him backgammon
Okay.
and took a crap load of money off of Stu Unger. And 3 weeks later, Unger came in and said, let's go again. And Mervis goes, nope. Not playing you anymore.
Already had it figured, huh?
X22, remember him? He was did really well in poker, but he was a backgammon champ. What happened to him?
Wasn't
He
Gus
died.
Hansen a backgammon?
Yeah, he died.
Rest in peace.
Gus Hansen was backgammon.
Yeah, they said Unger was like 15 years old in New York, just mopping people up like as a kid in gin.
Yeah, they said the most ridiculous gin player ever.
Yeah.
But he didn't know anything about backgammon. And this guy was an expert. And in 3 weeks, he wouldn't play him anymore. That's how fast this guy was and how, Stu Unger was just a savant.
I wish I met him. That would be cool.
I met him once. He started, he babbled something at me. He just said something. I didn't know what he said. I just went, shut up. And I walked away.
Too much drugs,
I know what
man.
to-
Too
He
much
hates
drugs.
everybody that he meets for the first time. What's going on?
Yeah, but we didn't become buds. All right, so let me go over the books real quick. All right, obviously we've got Hollywood Dave's Blackjack book. It's a great book. Buy it, read it. Kill Phil. These are the books that Huntington Press has published. Kill Phil's for beginners. All right, and the whole idea is put the experts to a decision fast because the experts want to stay in as long as they can. They don't want to get in on a coin flip. You get them to lay down hands they normally wouldn't.
Except for Stu Unger. Doesn't work again. Well, he's gone now. So.
Doesn't work there, right? All right. Then after the follow-up was Kill Everyone. That was Lee Nelson. Lee Nelson and Blair Rodman did Kill Phil. Then Lee, with a bunch of other guys, big names, did Kill Everyone. More game theory in this book. Then went to the Razor's Edge. That was Elke. Game theory, equilibrium, heavy on equilibrium. And then this one, Flop Turn River. All these books did well, except Flop Turn River did not do well. And that's like a workbook. And I thought this book was going to be tremendous. I mean, the people in this is Lee Nelson. This is Joe Hashem, World Series main event champ. Tony Dunst, Dennis Waterman, all these guys, Tyson Stribe. These guys are all big names in poker. Give this one a go. It's a workbook for you. I say beginners, you do this book and this book. Kill Phil and Flop Turn River.
So one final question for you guys from me before we go. I have a love for Texas Hold'em. Some of my best memories are sitting around with our laptop computers with my family playing full tilt poker when it was popular in like '08. But I'm not like really a tournament player. But I live here in Vegas. what would be something cool for me to do as a beginner to try to do like one of these World Series of Poker tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, these big field events for small buy-in, even though I know we touched on the rake earlier at 18% for a 300 is not that great, but whatever your bankroll can afford, I'd say up to probably 1,500, anywhere from that range. The bigger the buy-in, the less money the casino's taking out. But if you want to just experience it for yourself, you can't go wrong. You get to see the spectacle, be part of the experience, and it's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing if you've never done it. It's cool.
All right.
And I mean, what? Go to the website. They have information. They give you about how to do it.
Wsop.com. It has all the schedules and the buy-ins and all the weird information about, if you need to wire money in, or if, when do the cages open? A lot of these these low buy-in tournaments, you get thousands of people standing in line. Of course, it's a Caesar's property. So, if you're Diamond or 7 Star, something like that, you get the kind of the fast line. But if
definitely
you don't,
bring your Diamond card if you have one.
Yeah. Or, as some people have learned that, you have a friend with 7 stars, you just have to flash it to get into that line, and then you don't have to use it to actually buy in. A little pro tip there. But, there's giant lines for these things. So, a lot of times, buy in the night before, you come in the night before, something like that, and that gives you a chance to kind of check out the space and get acclimated, and then you can kind of skip the line. The only downside to that is if you're bought in before the time a tournament starts, your chips are in play right away, so you want to get there on time.
Well, now most of them, they're doing that. Even if you're buying in, what am I trying to say here?
If you buy in late, they have already blinded out your chips?
Yes.
Oh, that's news.
They've changed it in the last couple of
Interesting.
years.
Okay.
I'm trying to think which.
Well,
which
double
ones
check
it
that
is.
on the
Yeah.
WSOP.com site. But normally, if you buy in late, you can start with a full stack, but you got to deal with the crowds. So
Or do like I do. Just walk in there, don't play and watch.
For free.
That's right.
Sounds good. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Any other last-minute tips from our esteemed panel?
Well, I'll say no tips, but just thanks to Dave and George. I appreciate
Thank
you guys
you.
coming in middle of the week, middle of the day. Appreciate it very much.
My tips: run good, be the luckiest guy there.
yeah,
It's
just
undefeated.
don't fuck it up. I don't know.